Okay. Literally, the scene in the movie is maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I went back and I looked at the timing. But do you want to tell them about what you book versus movied?
So, half of it. Pretty much half
Pretty
of it.
much all of it. Pretty much all of it.
I mean, yeah. I would have loved to see Ron's wand hit Flitwick in the face. I mean, that would be very disrespectful. I know, but it would have been hilarious.
So sweet, but him being so little, he just gets the end of the short straw so many times.
Yeah. And then, of course, that whole early wake-up call from Oliver Wood didn't happen. His entire conversation with Colin Creevy about Quidditch, about the picture, and all of that, like his whole walk down to the pitch didn't happen in the movie. Oliver's pep talk, Oliver's 3 boards of new Quidditch, whatever, his plan, none of that happened. We basically, in the movie, go straight from the Pixies to the pitch and, well, to talking to the Slytherin team.
Like, the next scene starts, instead of Wood coming up and waking them up, like after the Pixies, when it switches scenes, the very next scene is the entire Gryffindor Quidditch team in the corridor heading out to go to the pitch, all in uniform already.
Yeah. And that's when they run into the Slytherin team, and they do have that discussion about the new brooms and the new seeker and all of that, and having the note, having permission to practice, all that stuff that is in the movie. But then here's something that I thought was really interesting. In the book, Ron performs a silent charm that, of course, backfires, but he performs a silent charm, whereas in the movie he says eat slugs, right? So I mean, I understand that for movie effect purposes it's better for him to say eat slugs, but again, book Ron, it shows a different level of ability that we don't get to see in the movie. They dumb his character down so much in the movie. He's just Harry Potter's dumb sidekick, basically. But in reality...
Because silent spells are advanced magic.
Yes, they don't teach us... We're not going to learn about silent spells.
I was going to say, they don't teach about those until later.
Exactly. And he's already...
Even though it backfired, but it still worked.
With the proper wand, it would have worked, right? Which is, I thought, something really interesting to note. That whole chat that Hagrid had about Lockhart being at the cabin, the Kelpie advice, us finding out that there's only that Lockhart was the only man for the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, all that tea, we don't get to have any of that, right? The conversation about mudbloods also was very, very different in the movie. There's no comparison between a pureblood like Neville to Hermione. There's no comparison between just pure bloods, mud bloods, and any of that whole, I feel like that was really important to, all it says, Hagrid, that here's another dumbing down of Ron. In the book, Ron has those lines, right? Ron has those amazing, insightful comparisons between Neville and Hermione. giving her her flowers, right? Between
and
her
explaining what it all means, and explaining between the common blood or the dirty blood of the term.
Yeah. And explaining how there's not a wizard who isn't like half blood or less or whatever, right? Like all of that is all Ron's words in the books. And again, they dumb him down and they give those lines to the only adult in the room, which is Hagrid, right? Which is fine. It makes Hagrid a lovable character.
Like a teachable moment.
Yes. However, again, it just takes away from Ron's character so much. We also don't get to see, sorry, go ahead.
The other thing too is in the book, Hermione didn't know what that term meant.
Right.
But in the movie,
she
knows what it means. And she's highly offended. And she's like crying. And she says, because Harry, of course, still doesn't know what it means either way in the book or the movie. Right. And Hermione says it's not a word one typically hears in civilized conversation. So,
yeah, so she
that part.
We also don't get to hear about the signed photos that like Hagrid was like, "What's this I hear about
it?" Yeah,
I thought that was hilarious, and like that's not in the movies either. And he's totally messing with him, right? He's totally joshing him, but still, it's a funny moment. And then we also don't get to see Hagrid's pumpkins. We don't get the introduction or the little tiny information about Hagrid being expelled when he was at Hogwarts, when he was in his 3rd year, and how he shouldn't be using magic, and how his umbrella is just conveniently around.
It's just a pink umbrella.
Yeah. So like all these little things that as a reader you can try to piece together, or you can kind of just keep in the back of your mind for a later time. These are all
build up the characters, because Ron is super smart and insightful, not some comedic side piece like in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And also I thought it was really interesting that like Hermione didn't really pass judgment. Hermione being Hermione, right? Hermione being the character who she is, didn't really pass judgment on the fact that Hagrid was using an engorgement charm. We also don't get to hear that Ginny was at Hagrid's hut looking for Harry, and how she might want a signed copy, a signed picture.
Well, because remember, Ginny and Colin are going to start up the Harry Potter fan club.
Right. And Ron teases about all of this stuff in the books.
Yeah.
In the movie, Ron again is completely oblivious to any of this, right?
Movie Ron is so clueless, and I hate it.
He's my absolute favorite character. Book Ron is my absolute favorite character, and they just do him dirty in the movies.
I hate it.
What else? Oh, I'm trying to go in order so that my brain can function. We don't really get to see Ron snorting slugs. We don't get to see him have so many of these sluggy moments.
Yeah.
Just like the first one and then the one in the bucket. And after that, not so much. We don't know that he had a slug attack all over the Secret Services to the School Award or any of that.
Yeah.
What else? They go off to do their detentions. We don't really hear so much about Ron's detention, right?
No.
Like,
because we're with...
But we don't really get to, like, hear about it or anything.
Yeah, no. we're with Harry when he's in detention with Lockhart and hears the voice.
Yep. Oh,
and then
when Harry and Ron get back to the dormitory, Hermione is nowhere near. Whereas in the movie, Harry has that conversation with Ron and Hermione.
Well, but see, now we're going into the next chapter, and I stopped it right there. So when Harry leaves detention in the movie, they don't even make it back to the dormitory. They roll into the next stuff that's going on. He runs into Ron and Hermione in the hallway, and then they, start heading off for some other stuff, and some other things happen, which we're going to go into in the next chapter. Whereas this chapter ends with Harry going back to the dorms, Ron coming back to the dorms, and then having that conversation before they go to bed.
That's what I'm saying. Like in the movie, he has that exact conversation with the other two.
As they're in the hallways on their way, and then it starts rolling into other stuff. Like it's not midnight, and he heads back to the dorm through the empty castle, like at the end of the chapter. Yeah,
it's like post dinner.
Yeah, totally different. It was totally different, and I went back and purposely looked at the timing, and this whole scene was maybe 3 minutes, because a lot of the detail there was missing, and the ways that the conversation went were different, and it just very different. Which brings us to